Hi and welcome to the next video with Jannik here as my guest and co-speaker. So super excited for today's topic. It's about artificial intelligence and Intune, so a fusion from two great technologies that we all love. And I'm really excited what Jannik has to present for us. So let's get started. So before we talk about Yannick's great solution, the Intune Troubleshooter, which he built, we want to open the stage to talk about generally AI and why it's becoming more and more important. Also here for endpoint management, so our core area. First of all, you have a skilled task focus. You can prioritize more on the important stuff. You know that from before that even in time, IT gets more automated, and also with AI, we have even more a higher level of automation. So that's great. You can focus on the clear tasks which require your attention, and that's also cost saving. It's also great because all built on that big data, it can predict and analyze the data for you and just give you the essence of the most important information which you need to then define and act. And also, it's becoming more complex, the IT environments. And with AI, we have the capability that AI maybe more understands the system, more understands the data, and it's also more optimized on the particular product. In this case, it would be Microsoft Intune. But generally, AI can be optimized to nearly any product, I guess. Also, it's an efficiency boost for you because manual errors are removed, and it also speeds up all the resolution processes and so on. What's really cool, similar to humans, is that it learns and adapts also over time. So I guess in a year or just in a few months already, we will see that this whole AI story and so on, that the journey goes this way up, and it learns more and more and gets capable of more actions. So let's get into the solution.
Good, then let's move forward. But before we show you the solution, we want to first clarify what is in the end a large language model. The whole solution is built on a large language model, but what is it? A large language model is in the end a deep learning model, which is trained on a mass of data, on billions and trillions of words. And this model as such is optimized to understand human language and also answer in human language. What is important to know is such a model is not a knowledge repository. What a lot of people think, oh, it knows everything. You have to be sure, or you have to know that this model is trained on data based on 2021 and could be outdated. What came out, but for sure, when you ask question about coding to write a script or stuff like this, I think there was no really major changes from 2021 until now, but this is something what is important to know. What is a general feature of such a large language model? In the end, it's like NLP, but more in advanced natural language processing. This means it fully understands what you say, it fully understands the context also, and can answer you in a human-like manner. And typical capabilities are answering questions for sure, writing text, generate content. In the end, it's a large language model is a part of generative AI. Generative AI means generate content. The AI which generates content like code, like also pictures is also part of this family. And typical use cases are chatbots, coding assistants like GitHub Copilot. I think everyone who worked with Copilot is really convinced and see how this makes your daily life easier, or also for research. If you want to figure something out, if you want to brainstorm, it's a big help. But to come back to the point, it's based on data from 2021. Here's a typical example. If you go into ChatGPT and ask how you can create a configuration profile in Intune, you see the answer. It answers you with Endpoint Manager Admin Center. And I think everyone of you knows that this is not longer the name. Microsoft loves to change names of products, and you see it's outdated information. And heck, what you can use is use Bing, the chat from Bing, because it works different. What Bing makes is first to search in the web to get content and enrich the prompts which are used to answer your question with live content. And you also see here, you have then links to the knowledge bases where the content came from. And here it's stated Microsoft Intune Admin Center. What is the current name? This means you can combine current information due to web searches or searches, for example, in knowledge bases, with these capabilities of a large language model to get out the bestest possible answers. So then let's move forward to my solution to the GPT device troubleshooter. What is this tool? This tool answers your questions on your Intune tenant based on enriched prompts. What we did here is you ask a question like, can you give me a list of all Android devices, or can you give me a list of all configuration profiles? And what's happened in the background is that will detect what is your intent, what you want to reach, and then dedicated code will be run to call graph, for example, to grab this data which is needed to answer your question, and give this data into large language model to answer your question as precise as possible without hallucination. This is an important point. If you ask a large language model a general question and you put the temperature, it's a parameter what you can configure, on a high value, then the model hallucinates and generates content. And this is exactly what we want to avoid. You answer a question and you want to have facts which are correct. And this is also some part of the solution to really answer your question as precise as possible, also in the format you ask it. For example, if you say, I want to have a device list in CSV, you will get this device list in CSV. Or if you say you want to have it in, I don't know, some strange format like YAML, you will get it in YAML. Also, this is possible. What are the prerequisites to use the tool? It's really simple. You don't need so much. It's an OpenAI, Azure OpenAI enabled subscription. To reach this, you only have to fill out the forms. You have to put in your subscription ID and some informations. And then 1 day later, or maybe 2 days later, so your subscription will be enabled to deploy this service, that you are able to deploy this. And you need the app registration with some delegated permissions, that the permissions of the user will be used to query graph. For sure, you need then also the permissions on your user to make these calls, and that's it. That's all prerequisites you need. Then let's, before we go into the live demo, let's also talk about how the whole solution works. In the end, you don't need to deploy infrastructure by your own. You don't need to write code. Everything is a one-click solution, more or less. You click on deploy to Azure, my GitHub repository, and what happened is the infrastructure will deploy, the code will be pulled from the GitHub repository, and that's it. Then you only have to fill out the app ID of your app registration and the secret of your cognitive service account from the OpenAI service, and then you are good to go. In general, the flow looks like this. The user go on the web page. It's a Streamlit web page. It's a really nice framework to build chat solutions, or in general web pages based on Python without building heavy HTML pages. And this web page will then start the authentication. The user has to authenticate via this app registration to get a token. Then the user will formulate a question. The intent of this question will be detected. Graph will be queried to get the data which is needed. And then a prompt will generate it with enriched data and will send to the GPT model to answer your question. And then the answer came back to the user to answer the question he had. Good. Then let's move forward to the live demo.
Super cool, great. So here we are on GitHub. If you need any more deployment instructions, please make sure to visit Jannik's blog post. He described everything perfectly well, but we are here going quickly through the demo. So here at GitHub, we can use that button, deploy to Azure, which is then just creating the required resources and redirecting you to Azure. So make sure to be signed in with the right account. And here you need to insert some information. So first of all, of course, specify a subscription where you want to do it. Specify a resource group. That's where all the resources are located later. Choose your region. Jannik, I think it's also important to note that the AI service is not available in all regions, as far as I know. Exactly.
Yep, this is correct.
Okay, so we're here using West Europe, and then you also need to specify a site name and an account name. This is then chosen as your personal instance, and just leave the website SKU as it is. This is basically a free tier. Great.
Yep.
So
Perfect.
that's it
Then
for the deployment. And later on, just create the resources. It will handle everything for you. And then all the resources will be created in the resource group you specified. These are free services, an app service plan, the effective app service, and the Azure OpenAI service. We need to do a little configuration here. You can see that here in the configuration pane. This is the place where all the application data and so on are specified. You need to copy some values out of here. This is for once the application ID and also the Azure OpenAI key. Just hit the eye icon here and you can then see the icons.
good. Then let's jump further to the tool. You can open this tool if you go to Overview and can go to Browse. When you do this, this web page will be opened, and here you can now ask a question with natural language. I ask the question, can you give me a device list with all Windows devices? When I now execute this, it took some seconds. What's happened in the background is now it detects the intent. My intent is to get a device list. Then it goes to Graph, gets from Graph all my devices from the tenant, put it in a prompt with my question attached, and then the cognitive service or the OpenAI service will provide me this answer. Sure, here's a list of all Windows devices, but to be honest, when you get this as JSON back, it's hard to read. What we want to do now is to get this in another format. I want to have it in XML. We try something strange. And what's now happened is you get an answer. The question does not fit in any of the predefined categories. This means reformatting is nothing I pre-specify, but this model as such gets the whole history and don't has to say, hey, you have to go this channel or another channel. It can make this reformatting out of the box. And what you see here, we got my devices more in a structured format in XML, and now you can use this data to work further. Also, if XML is not the most current format to do further processing. The whole tool is named Device Troubleshooter. Why is it named Device Troubleshooter? You see here, when I run this query to check the status, you get here an answer from my device. You see the status. It says, this is the device name. I have so many free storage and so on and so forth. But this is not really structured. Now I want to have it in a more structured way. Then I also ask, can you optimize the formatting? And what's happened now, I get this as a list, which is better readable. Then we can also check third use case. I can ask, can you give me a list of all my applications? Let's remove all my, let's give me a list of all applications. And now again, the same procedure. It detects that I want to have application list, goes to graph, export my application. And what you see here, you see the list of applications which are in my tenant. And in general, this tool has much more capabilities. You can ask for configuration profile. You can ask for which group my device is in. You can compliance status. You can also, instead of the status of a device, you can also ask about the health. And then all the configuration which are assigned to the device will be checked if something is on an error state, for example. And then also this will be pointed out to you to see if you have a policy, if you have an app which are in an error state, and so on and so forth. Good, then back to you, Niklas.
Thank you very much. What else do we want to show? Do we want to show the roadmap? All right.
Yes, we can do this.
Great. So let's get back to the slides. Yeah. So I'm already amazed of what the feature and what the solution is already capable of. So cool to see AI helping us here in endpoint management. I mean, you can literally ask the GPT troubleshooter any question and it will help you tailor to your environment. But Jannik, what else do you have planned for the roadmap and that cool solution?
Yeah, I think this is currently the first version. I released this on September 10th and the Sunday after the Endpoint Summit in Paris. And now the goal is to get feedback. I also got some feedback and also collect bugs and fix them. This means that the current state is stable, that we can move it in version 1. And then the next point I will work on is to also implement post support. Currently, you only can make gets to get information, but the goal is also to post informations to say, hey, I want to create a configuration profile. This will be a challenge, but let's try. I will work on this. And then I will also work on visualization support. For example, when you ask what is the ratio between Android and iOS devices, that you get a visualization with a pie chart where you see how many percentage is iOS and how many Android, for example. And the last point I will also work on, and I think this brings the most benefit, I will provide you a solution where you can put in your own knowledge base documents, your own text documents, PDF, whatever. And also here, the bot, the web page will answer your question based on your custom documents to give you also how-to question, answers to how-to question, how to create a configuration profile in Intune yourself. When you ask this with domain knowledge of a model, you will get outdated information. But here you have then also the possibility to answer questions based on your internal processes and stuff like this as precise as possible.
Great. Okay, to round this up, I have 3 questions to you, Jannik, to your solution. First one would be, what about costs? How is it consumption based, or how does it work? Which resources make costs, or does it even cost?
Depends. You can deploy the solution for free. This means when you select the app service as F1, then you don't have running costs and you only pay for the tokens. This means when you ask a question and GPT is called, you have to pay for the tokens, but here the costs are really low, for sure, depending on how much requests you send out. But this is nothing, you have to really take care about, because it's not high costs for some requests. Or if you want to scale the solution up, for sure, when you want to have a bigger SKU and bigger tier for the app service, then for sure you have also running costs, but also this is not in a high area.
Okay, great, thanks. And what about what happens with my data? What about privacy?
Yeah. In the end, when you use the Microsoft service, this is different than the public ChatGPT or OpenAI service, because Microsoft gets the binary files from these models, put it in a service, in an SLA. This means you also have some availability and such stuff. And also the data is in your binary. This means nothing came out, no data will be used to train these models. The only thing what you have to know is when you ask illegible questions, this will be logged. This means this is something where Microsoft gets the logging of your question, but in general, if you have some Intune related question, nothing will go out of your boundaries. But I also have a link in my blog where you can really detail see the statements and the concept of Microsoft, how the whole model is treated.
Okay, thanks for clarification. I think you also need to consider the Intune data is already at Microsoft, so they already have your data. If you have a language model on top of it and you only ask questions that are related to your own infrastructure, I mean, yeah, that's sort of an already a thing which is already done. But of course, read the privacy statements from Microsoft if you are interested in more info. Okay, last question. What about contribution? So if I have any inputs to your solution, is there a way to, let's say, open source contribute?
Yeah, the whole project is hosted on GitHub, how we
Yeah.
already saw this. This means if someone is interested to add features, to change something, it's a community project. This means everyone can contribute who is interested in, or also if you want to test it and see some bugs, you can open issues on GitHub. If you have ideas for improvement, then you can also create an issue as well on GitHub, and this will also contribute to make this tool better.
Wonderful. All right. Then, Jannik, thank you very much for creating this super cool tool for us and also for presenting here. I think that helps a lot of folks out there to understand the solution and also to see what's possible. And we really hope that we inspired you with that session. And great, that's everything for today's video. Thanks again, Jannik, and see you next time.
Thanks again
Goodbye.
for having me.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.